not allow that kind of a behavior, Mr. Speaker. Even this issue that people are talking about of what happened today, that, oh, you're hosting rebels, this or the other. Kenya is a proud member of the international community. Many times, people rush here when their countries are in conflict, Mr. Speaker. The same people that are faulting us and saying, why did you allow Besigye to be picked and they are lifted from Nairobi, today have a problem that part of the faction that is warring in Sudan is here in the country. So which is which? If you want us to lock the country to anybody that is under siege in their own country, Mr. Speaker, then let that be your stand. But you cannot on one hand say that you need to keep this one here, but the other one you need to release. Kenya, over the years, has made significant contribution to regional stability, including almost every other East African country, Mr. Speaker, that every other time they've had conflict, people have negotiated here. I want to believe that part of negotiation, Mr. Speaker, includes allowing the warring parties, Mr. Speaker, to have access to your country. Who says if one of the entities has come and pitched tent here, Mr. Speaker, that we support whatever they are doing? We are a proud member of the international stage, Mr. Speaker, and I know for a fact that when people seek to either congregate here or find a safe haven if they feel unsafe in their country, there are millions of refugees that continue to ply their trade, Mr. Speaker, or make a living in this country as they go about their business. You remember even the issue of DRC a few months ago, where when DRC protested and said, why did you allow so-and-so to speak? Our answer was plain and simple. This is a free country. When people come here, they enjoy the rights. This is a country where you insult even the president and nobody does anything about you. So it will be very difficult for us to reserve and say only Kenyans are allowed certain rights and foreigners are not permitted of the same, Mr. Speaker. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, I want to request the colleagues that want to do an evaluation of Kenya's performance on the diplomatic stage to perhaps present a substantive motion, come before the Senate Standing Committee on Defense and Foreign Relations, Mr. Speaker, and raise the issue that they have. But to reduce such an important motion, you know, Mr. Speaker, where you find you want to score cheap points and appear as if you're the one who's most knowledgeable, you know, on these matters which you are ill-prepared to comment about, because the things that you're speaking for, if people who understand things better listen to you, they cringe in their seats because they are wondering who elected this one. Mr. Speaker, I want to plead with colleagues that there are matters, I said this in the morning when I was moving this motion, that there are things that should divide us. We can surely have difference of opinion when it comes to matters local politics. But when shall we ever grow and mature politically to appreciate that, for example, when a Kenyan shows up at the international stage, Mr. Speaker, then they represent our flag. They represent us as an entire people. If you are not a candidate in that particular exercise, competing with them, Mr. Speaker, then the least that you can do, look away if you don't like that particular person. At least at the very worst, Mr. Speaker, just keep quiet. But if you are a patriot, take time to celebrate them and lend their support, Mr. Speaker. But not to do the kind of things that we saw being done when the Prime Minister was making his run, touring African countries. There are people who are posting pictures. When President said, oh, today I had dinner with former Prime Minister of Kenya, Raila Odinga, you go to the comment sections, Kenyans are even more than citizens of that particular country with their stupid tribal politics, Mr. Speaker, importing it all the way to the international stage. And then you find leaders here in this house trying to justify that, oh, yeah, let people express themselves. Express what? Ignorance. Mr. Speaker, leadership also involves telling people that this is not right, that we don't agree with you in this particular. Why are you a leader then? I thought a leader, part of your duty, is also to show the way in certain matters that you're well prepared for. Mr. Speaker, I want to appreciate those that understood the spirit of this motion and took their time to critically evaluate and celebrate that a Kenyan, a prominent one, an eminent one at that, Mr. Speaker, gave a good account of himself on the international stage, and now people know better about Kenya and our credentials. I did mention, Mr. Speaker, that it is okay for people to have their opinion. But you know, the most ignorant of the lot, Mr. Speaker, are the ones that have tried to reduce this conversation to be about the evaluation of President William Ruto. He was not a candidate there. Prime Minister Raila Odinga himself said it on that night on the 15th, that there is nothing that the government of Kenya led by President William Ruto stopped at or withheld in terms of support in his candidature. And he said, I appreciate that about this. So who else can come here and tell us, oh, you know, this was not done right, this should have been this way or the other? If the candidate himself appreciates that the country did everything that was humanly possible, and we only ended up losing because elections are what they are. Sometimes people choose not to see or appreciate issues the way you perceive them. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, let it go on record that this House appreciates the decent run, the good presentation at the international stage of this eminent Kenyan, that there are lessons that the country has learned, so that in future, because there will be other Kenyans, Mr. Speaker, who will show up at the international stage looking for employment opportunities, either in global institutions, Mr. Speaker, or even at the UN, Mr. Speaker. And there are things that we can surely do better as a country. I want to appreciate, Mr. Speaker, the seconder of this motion, Senator Moses Kajwang, because it is he who reminded us that with this negative energy, very soon we will transfer it even to matters like sports, things which ordinarily have always united us. That you'll find Harambee Stars playing, and because maybe there's a certain player that you don't like, or this or the other, Mr. Speaker, then you'll find people, you know, either cheering the other country or wishing ill fate on our own team. We must nip it at the bud while it is still early, Mr. Speaker, and be able to tell each other. You know, the other day, Mr. Speaker, we laid to rest celebrated veteran journalist Leonard Mambo Mbotela. It is on such matters that he will ask, Je, hu ni ungwana? Is this really decent of us, Mr. Speaker, to continue to do these kind of things? Therefore, I want to conclude, Mr. Speaker, by expressing the three things that this motion intended to do when we set it out this morning, which is, one, to express the thanks of the Senate to the Right Honorable Prime Minister Raila Odinga, to appreciate that he gave a good account of this country, that this Senate notes that despite the fact that he may not have won, Mr. Speaker, that it was not because of anything in his own capacity, but given that this was a competition and there were other judges, Mr. Speaker, that they may have held different views. But as a country, we are proud of him and the work that he was able to do. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, is to record the thanks of this House to His Excellency the President William Ruto for stepping up, Mr. Speaker, and ensuring that a man whom they fiercely competed in the last presidential election and was separated on only by barely 200,000 votes, Mr. Speaker, enjoyed the support and the full backing of the government of Kenya with no restraint, Mr. Speaker. And that is what a decent country should do, because this is an important job. You know, Mr. Speaker, I'm reminded, I saw last weekend another member of parliament from the National Assembly. I don't want to take him seriously anyway. I think he's the MP for Juja or something. I don't want to take him seriously because I read elsewhere, I don't know if it is true, that the only document that gentleman has is a driver's license. Therefore, the kind of things you're saying about, I don't know how much was spent, is expected of such characters, Mr. Speaker. But the point is, Kenya should not have held back.
Leader of Majority,
yes.
I may as well remind you that the said member has since recorded a statement before the police and has been charged before court.
No, today he was charged for forgery, not for the misleading comments that he said about what Kenya did, I don't know, in the candidature. Apart from having a driver's license, probably, which is also maybe forged, Mr. Speaker, probably even the other documents, that is what the court will be told later on, that we record appreciation to the President for the kind of support that was accorded to Prime Minister Raila by the Republic of Kenya. Third and final, Mr. Speaker, is that the Senate of the Republic of Kenya record a congratulation to His Excellency Mohamud Ali Yusuf on his election as the chairperson of the Commission, AUC Commission, on Saturday, 15th February 2025. We are true Democrats, Mr. Speaker, and even though we competed and it was intense and difficult, the winners eventually have their say.